What's up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fit Design TV. So glad to have you guys back on the channel. And this is the first episode that I'm shooting in 2023, and for that I wanted to discuss what you as a fashion entrepreneur, as anyone that is looking to get into the fashion space, what is the new fashion business model? What does fashion look like as a startup business in 2023? Honestly, fashion has changed tremendously in the last 5 years, in the last 3 years, in the last 2 years, and it's always consistently changing. So as an entrepreneur looking to get into the space, what are the key things that you need to consider to set yourself up for success? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be discussing in today's episode. Welcome to Fit Design TV. Are you interested in sports fashion, design, and manufacturing? Are you establishing your own brand? You're looking good. Anthony, how are we doing? Do you want to? Thank you. Well, you've come to the right place. Lights, camera, action. The first and probably the most important massive shift that's happened in the fashion industry over the last 5 years is that fashion has now gone from the traditional fashion values of the designer to something that is a lot more ingrained in the entrepreneur himself. So you get to share your personal values, your ethics, your mission as part of your brand identity. If you look at a brand like Alphalete, this is one of the first brands that I've seen that truly embodies the original vision of the company and the original vision of the owner. This is not a brand that's based off of a marketing ploy or some sort of design fashion week that comes from Milan. It's a brand that is solely based off of the identity of the entrepreneur, the values of the entrepreneur, the way that the entrepreneur saw that there was a gap in the market, what types of products he wanted to create based on his own personal lifestyle, what he wanted to see out there, and he went and he made a brand. And this is the major shift that we see here. We see fashion being taken away from the creatives, right? The traditional fashion designers, and being brought to people that have an idea, who have an identity, who have a personality, and they just want to put that in fashion form. And you can do that as well. You don't have to have the best fashion education. You don't have to have studied in Paris. You don't have to be a classical fashion designer anymore. All you have to be is someone with a vision, a mindset, an idea of what you'd like to create in the market, and the ability to go out there and execute. And that's the beauty of fashion. It's become opened. It's no longer this sort of gate-kept thing that only the exclusives, only the elites, only the fashion snobs can get into and create their own fashion brand. It's not become this artsy, fartsy thing. It's become a community-based aspect that anyone with their own idea can create and can get their little niche and their little community that's special to them. Number two is that fashion is now measured with different metrics. Each fashion brand has an individual version of the success that it can measure itself by. So what does this mean? Back in the day, as a fashion brand, you were measured by your revenue, by the amount of units you sold, by how often you launched, by how often you appeared in top-rated magazines. To be a successful fashion brand, you had to have a certain sort of metric that you were measured by, and this has completely changed. Fashion is no longer about how many units you're selling. It's more about the impact you're creating, how true you are to your vision. When you set something out and you go to execute it, how many people do you impact? How authentic is your vision? Are you creating something that is truly changing people's lives? Are you being able to connect with people from all over the world through the products you're creating? This is what fashion has become. Fashion has become a tangible way for people to buy into your unique vision, to your idea. It's become more personalized in a way. It's become more niche-based. There's no longer a fashion overlord or a fashion mega authority that dictates on a day-to-day basis what is a successful fashion brand and what isn't. It's up to you and your customers to decide. Number three, you no longer have to adhere to the traditional seasons, right? Back in the day, collections would be launched during summer, spring, fall, winter. They would be religiously dropped during New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week. These would be the core avenues to where you'd present your initial collections and where you'd get them out to the world. Long gone are those days. You now have the flexibility as an entrepreneur to launch whenever you would like and whenever aligns to your schedule and towards what you're trying to create. You're no longer seeing this massive shift where everyone is launching products at the same time. Fashion brands have the flexibility to launch when they want, whether it's on a month-to-month basis or it's once every quarter, depending on their needs and their customers' wants. This is when they're choosing to launch. A lot of big fashion brands, Alphalete, Gymshark, Nike even, all of these brands are choosing to launch specifically when they notice their customers are in need of their products. They're also able to create large launches and then to create mini launches to restock or to revamp. We are in real time seeing the redefinition of what it means to create a fashion collection. Back in the day, traditionally in fashion, we used to see major houses create these large, very deep collections that had a theme to them, that had so much variety, that had so much richness into them, right? 30, 40 pieces in a collection. Some pieces wouldn't even be sold. They would only be designed and created specifically for the runway. And this was done back in the day because what we would notice is we as fashion brands would sell directly to wholesalers, retailers, to the department stores. So what we wanted was to give our buyers an option to buy into these large collections. And honestly, that is no longer the case. Fashion brands are opting to create much smaller collections that are allowing them to have a better cash flow. They're allowing them to create products that they want to test out on the market. They're not having to go all in on these large collections and to invest so much upfront without any guaranteed return. We're seeing fashion brands being able to get away with launching collections that are 8 to 9 pieces, or even sometimes testing out key pieces that are 1 to 2 in a mini capsule collection. This is a beautiful thing because you as a fashion entrepreneur looking to get into this space, it gives you the opportunity to test out the waters and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you without having to spend a tremendous amount of money only to notice that this is not the right direction for you. Fashion brands in 2023 are finding tremendous value in niche press. What does this mean? If you look at traditional fashion back in the day, you'd only be considered a success from a publication and a media standpoint if your collection, if your designs were featured on Elle, on Vogue, and all of these top tier fashion magazines. And there's nothing to say that this isn't such a bad thing after all, but this is no longer the only way to truly get your name out there. You can be a sort of obscure fashion brand that is featured on TikTok with a famous reviewer, or on Instagram or on YouTube. You're able to gain massive notoriety and virality just by being featured on these niche platforms. This has completely democratized what it means to be able to get your vision out there for people to actually see what you're made of, as opposed to having the gatekeepers from these massive fashion editorials dictate and select very stringently who they choose to feature or not. You now have the power in your own hands to get your vision out there, even if it's in actually creating your own fashion YouTube channel, where you can create your own brand and you can showcase the behind the scenes of your brand and create your own media outlets. You're no longer constrained by traditional media, and now you can take matters into your own hands and create your own media outlets to showcase to the world what you're made of and why they should buy into your fashion brand. Last but definitely not least is location is now irrelevant. Again, back in the day, in the traditional olden fashion days, to be considered a fashion success, you would have to be a brand that comes out of Paris, Milan, New York, Los Angeles. Again, this is no longer the case. Sure, New York, Los Angeles, Paris are still major fashion hubs that have a tremendous influence in terms of how fashion is designed and how it's sold. But you can be a obscure designer from Houston, Texas, and actually make it in the fashion space and be considered on a professional level to be a profound designer with a true impact in the space. Really, location is irrelevant. The digital world, the digital economy has completely opened up the opportunities for everyone to actually get their fashion voice heard, and if their designs are good enough, to actually be taken seriously and to cultivate a authentic and a dedicated following that are going to love their products and are going to gain massively from what you as a fashion brand have to offer. So what does all of this mean? It means that at the start of 2023, it's never been a better time to start a fashion brand as a solo entrepreneur, as someone that has had an idea and a dream for so long to get their own unique vision out there. This is your time. This is the opportunity that is faced in front of you. Sure, it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's going to be tremendously difficult, but believe me, at the end of the road, if you're willing to put the time in, if you're willing to dedicate the hours necessary, you can and will achieve success. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please send this channel massive good luck by smashing a massive thumbs up. Can't wait to have an amazing 2023 with you guys. Until next time, stay awesome.